What a head, son! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to take you guys through my transfer plan for the upcoming double game week 29. So the switch over between double game week 28 concluding, which is going to be Thursday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you guys are around the world, to double game week 29's deadline is about 24 to 48 hours. So really quick kind of turnover between the game weeks, and that's, I think, it was quite important to give you guys my initial reaction and my initial talking points going into the transfer plan for the upcoming game week. So in this video, we're going to be discussing the possibilities as well as taking a reflection on how some teams are doing and whether we should be keeping or selling their players. So that's something you guys are interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So as I mentioned in the introduction, the Premier League game week at 28 is not actually concluded yet. We still do have one fixture tonight, which is going to be Spurs versus Everton, and then we have 4 fixtures, which are going to be those double game week fixtures happening on Thursday. So obviously that means that it's quite hard to kind of get definite plans going ahead for the transfers. There might be some possibilities that are going to turn out to be optimal, but unfortunately we're going to have to wait till those Thursday night games just to get the full story. But not only do we have those Premier League games, you also have some Champions League and Europa League football, a Europa League Conference League. Not going to focus too much on that, but I will focus on those Liverpool assets who will be playing Inter Milan tomorrow night. And the reason I want to focus on them is that not only do we own a lot of those assets, Trent, Robertson, Salah, Mane, maybe even a Luis Diaz or a Jota if you guys have gone a little bit differential, but my personal team, I'm looking to triple captain Mo Salah in double game week 29, and he hasn't been on the best of form recently, so hopefully against Inter tomorrow, comes out injury free, maybe subbed on about the 60-70 minute mark with a lovely Hattie would be quite appreciated. So I just want to see a little bit of form from the Egyptian to kind of cement or concrete my triple captain, but also be looking at those other options in the various European competitions. So just remember, if you guys are watching this video maybe on a Tuesday or a Thursday, Friday, just make sure that you know that I am recording this on Monday and things in this video might change. But now let's head on to the double game week 29 fixtures, and the reason I want to kind of highlight this is just to show you guys which fixtures I'm targeting and which players from certain teams I'm looking to bring in. So as you guys probably already know, but if you don't, 6 teams will have a double game week in double game week 29. That's going to be Brighton, Spurs, Everton, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then finally Newcastle. So Newcastle are the only team that had back-to-back doubles from double game week 28 to double game week 29, and only 2 teams play in blank game week 30, and that's going to be Spurs and then also Arsenal. So I'm going to start off with the left-hand side, just talk about the fixtures as I usually do. I kind of give my own rating here. If it's a red fixture, it means it's a bad fixture. White fixture means a little bit of an average, a meh fixture, and then finally a green fixture means it's one that I'll be targeting. So first up, we have Brighton with a red and a white fixture. The Liverpool at home fixture, in my opinion, is going to be a tough one. Defensively and from an attacking point of view, Liverpool have been really strong this season, and Brighton have been overall slightly poor. Now, if you guys do own a defender, maybe a Robert Sanchez, that's probably the highest I would kind of go in the defense, just because you could get some save points. And from a Brighton attack, those attackers are getting constantly rotated, and therefore I can't really recommend any of them. The Spurs game is an average fixture. As Spurs, we kind of never know which team's going to pitch up. Sometimes they have a great game, sometimes they have a really poor game, like Middlesbrough. But hopefully, if you guys do own a Son or Kane, Brighton aren't going to be defending that well. Spurs are our team up next though. I've listed Brighton away in a green, but that could also be an average fixture. It also depends on which Brighton team also pitch up, because recently defensively they haven't been that great, but taking the season as a whole, they're kind of an average defensive side. Spurs also face United away, a team that's just lost 4-1 to their closest rivals in terms of location. Man City thrashing them. Spurs aren't exactly at the same caliber of Man City, but I do still think they could score against the Reds. Now, if you guys do want to look at bringing in some Spurs assets, I would be looking at the game tonight against Everton, because if a player like a Doherty manages to have a great game, I do think for the upcoming double game week, probably the best defender to get from them. It is a little bit weird how Conte's managed to rotate that defense so much. I honestly thought that Reguilon and Emerson were favorites in those fullback positions, but that hasn't been the case, and we have seen some rotation in those fullback positions. In terms of the attack, I would kind of just go for Son or Kane. If you guys want to go for a double up, that's perfectly fine, as they do play in blank game week 30. We then move on to Everton, who actually have a really nice double game week, both home fixtures. They face a Wolves side that have not been playing well recently. I think it's 3 losses on the trot for that to Wolverhampton Wanderers side. So I mean, Everton, they haven't had the best form as well, but in that relegation battle, I really do think they could grind out 2 1-0s in both these games. I think I favour the Newcastle game slightly more, but I think from an attacking point of view, Wolves have defended worse than Newcastle. At least that's what the stats say over these prior game weeks. It's just kind of hard to predict the Everton lineup. I think tonight against Spurs, that'll give us some intel. Calvert-Lewin might be back in the starting 11 or at least on the bench. I don't think I'll exactly go for him because of those injury concerns, but there are some defenders that have my eye because they are quite cheap. But we now head on to the right side where I'm pretty sure most of us own these Liverpool and these Arsenal assets. Liverpool have 2 away games, Brighton away and Arsenal away. Not exactly the perfect double game week like a double game week 26 for the Liverpool assets, but I still do think they could do quite well against Brighton and Arsenal. So Brighton, I've mentioned enough that defensively they aren't that secured over these prior game weeks, and Arsenal as well, conceding 2 goals to Watford could have actually been more. I definitely think that Liverpool always do well against this Arsenal side, and therefore I think it still could be a good option to go for that triple captaincy for Mo. I think the question on everyone's mind, and we might go a little bit more in depth into this kind of talking point, is which triple up to go for. Salah and Trent are kind of givens. Should you go for Robertson? Should you go for Luis Diaz or Jota? I personally think Robertson right now looks the more secured, as there could always be some rotation with those front 3. And I guess if you do go Robertson, you just hope that they keep 2 clean sheets against Brighton and Arsenal. Talking about Arsenal, we then move on to their double, which is Leicester at home and Liverpool at home. I've said this before in game week 28 when I was considering Ramsdale or Ben White out. I honestly think that Arsenal will concede in both these 2 games after seeing their performance against Watford on the weekend. Leicester with Jamie Vardy back, he always loves a goal against the Gunners. I think he's probably the favourite to wipe out that clean sheet. But also against Liverpool, I think there's going to be a ton of goals in that one, and therefore I wouldn't be trusting the defensive options too much, and I think I would favour someone like a Saka or Lacazette because they do seem to be in quite good form. The final team though is going to be Newcastle with Chelsea away, bad fixture in my eyes, and then Everton away, which could be a good fixture depending on how secured Everton are at the back. But as I mentioned with Newcastle, defensively they've improved over these current game weeks, and I do think someone like a Dubravka could have a massive haul in double game week 29. So overall guys, the double game week 29 fixtures aren't that spectacular. I think Liverpool's double looks quite good. I think that Everton could provide some budget enablers. If Spurs decide to turn up as well as Arsenal, they could have some great double game week scores. The final thing I want to talk about with the double game week 29 fixtures though is that Spurs and Arsenal both play in blank game week 30. So if you guys want to go for some more secured options, I would recommend prioritizing those players. But now going on to kind of the review and anticipation of these upcoming fixtures, the first team we're going to talk about is going to be Wolves, and if there was one word to describe Wolves, it probably was going to be disappointment. So I brought in Kilman this week to double up with Saiss in that defensive department. Had Raul Jimenez, he came off the bench pretty late on into that first game. Don't you know what's happening with the Mexican? Apparently there might be some background stuff that we don't exactly know about that could be going on at that Wolves training ground. But as far as I know, I was hoping in the next game in double game week 28 that they can rebound on this and get me some points. So I think the main concern for me about those Wolves assets is that there could be some rotation as a reaction to this bad form. Mentioned in the earlier talking point that they have had 3 losses on the bounce, and therefore there could be some rotation in that forward or that defensive department. Currently, I think a lot of us own Saiss, Sarr, and Kilman. Now, if Wolves choose to go to a back 4, I think that Saiss and Kilman could both be at risk of some rotation, whereas I think Sarr and Cody should be quite secured. In terms of Raul Jimenez, I do think he'll come back into the starting 11 after the relatively bad performance of the forwards in that first game, and I just hope that he scores against Watford in double game week 28. Talking about that Watford fixture, on the right hand side of your screen you guys can see the fixtures of the upcoming game weeks for Wolves. I just want to talk about them for a little bit, just because I think this will help us decide if we take them out or keep them in our squad. So the big thing about those Wolves players is they do play in blank game week 30 against Leeds at home. Now that fixture could be quite a good one, could be quite a bad one, depending how the new Leeds manager kind of sets up in these next couple games. But I do still think it's worth keeping hold of them at least till game week 30. After that though, the fixtures don't actually look too bad. Aston Villa at home, depends on how Stevie G's kind of got that team playing. They have been a little bit hit or miss under him, but then Newcastle away and Burnley away in game week 32 and 34 look like quite good fixtures. I think this Watford game is going to kind of hinge on transferring them out or keeping these Wolves assets in my team, because if Kilman and Saiss are dropped, I don't see any reason to keep them. So for me, those Wolves assets are wait and see. I mean, if they go against Watford, keep a clean sheet, Raul Jimenez scores a couple goals, I think we'll be on our merry way, keeping those assets for game week 30. But if they are rotated or dropped, or they have a bad performance against Watford, I do think I can see myself taking them out. The next team is going to be Aston Villa. I'm pretty sure you guys will be happy if you captain Coutinho. Unfortunately, Coutinho did test positive. I'm hoping that he does return for that Leeds game. Talking about that Leeds game, that's going to be an away game for the second game of double game week 28. But then after that, the Aston Villa fixtures do get a lot tougher. Now they do also have a blank game week 30 fixture against Arsenal at home. That game could be quite a tough one, but as we saw against Southampton, defensively strong teams Aston Villa might be able to unlock. So I do think I'll be keeping these assets for about game week 30 unless I need some value, downgrade a Coutinho, a Coutinho to someone cheaper to afford some other options, but I don't think these are exactly at the top of my radar to transfer out. But then heading on to game week 31, Wolves away, Spurs, Liverpool and then Leicester. The fixtures do toughen up a bit, but as we saw against Southampton, Aston Villa do look quite good going forward. So I think it'll be a keep for me because I do need some blank game week 30 players. I mean, if I'm taking out the Wolves assets, I need some options to play, and Arsenal at home might not be the worst fixture in the world for that blank game week. The next team we're going to talk about is going to be Southampton, a relatively bad performance they had against Aston Villa. Broja didn't have any shots, I think, and I think Adams missed 2 big chances, which was really disappointing as I did bring him in for a hit for double game week 28, but I guess that is how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Southampton host Newcastle for the second game, where I do hope they rebound. Newcastle, as I mentioned, have been quite defensively assured, so I'm just hoping that Adams and Broja can get me some returns, or at least a forced clean sheet at the end of the day. The unfortunate thing about these Southampton assets, though, is that they do blank in game week 30 after they did beat West Ham in the 5th round of the FA Cup, but after that the fixtures actually look quite mediocre. Leeds away is probably a fixture I'll keep them for, but then they do also host Chelsea and Arsenal. Now I am more worried about that Chelsea game. I think that defensively they've been quite assured, but the Arsenal fixture at home could be one to keep hold of, even if I just play one of Broja or Adams. Then facing Brighton in game week 34, I think Southampton are a team that I'm not really willing to take out, especially because I do own 2 forwards from them, and the other forwards in FPL haven't been that strong. So I think for me it's a wait and see. I think game week 30 I might take one of them out, but as I mentioned, no forwards to kind of get in that blank game week anyway, so might as well just keep them for game week 31 against Leeds. So now that we've kind of given you guys a review about the teams and the concerns for my transfers in terms of Southampton, Wolves, and also Aston Villa, I want to give you guys my top 3 transfer options heading into double game week 29. So my first option is going to be Andy Robertson from Liverpool. I mentioned that Liverpool triple up. I only own Trent and Salah right now, and in terms of Brighton and Arsenal way, I do still favour those Liverpool assets. So at 7.2 million, I do need to downgrade someone, and that's why I did mention those Wolves assets as well as a full Coutinho. If I do need some value in the bank, I could always downgrade those to a cheaper option, then upgrade a Digne or a Saiss or Kilman to an Andy Robertson. So I do think there might be some rotation heading Liverpool's way considering the fact that they're in so many competitions, but I do still favour Andy Robertson to get the majority of minutes, and that's why I do want to bring in the Scottish player. My next option though is going to be a pretty no-brainer one. A lot of people have brought this English striker into their team. It's going to be Harry Kane. However, he does come in quite expensive at 12.3 million. So I think the only way I could afford a Harry Kane is to downgrade a Mo Salah. I think I would leave Salah out for maybe the Man City game as well in game week 31 or 32. And I'll just keep Harry Kane for those game weeks considering the fact that he plays in blank game week 30. However, I do think Harry Kane is more of a defensive move. I already own Son, so doubling up on that Spurs attack as they have been a little bit unpredictable at the moment. I'm kind of just bringing him in to protect myself from those other FPL managers. I think tonight's game against Everton is going to tell us a lot. If Harry Kane has a massive performance, I think it's too hard to not bring the English striker into my team. Double game week this upcoming game week and then a blank fixture, and with the fixtures after that in game week 31 and 32 aren't looking that bad, I've put Harry Kane as my second best option to bring in. And the final option, pretty much out of the blue here, is going to be Harvey Barnes from Leicester. You're probably saying that I didn't speak about Leicester at all, but you guys will see in an upcoming chip strategy video why I'm bringing the Leicester assets in. 6.5 million, easy downgrade from a full Coutinho, a Rafinha if those teams aren't playing that well. I think Harvey Barnes is the best Leicester asset to bring in at the current moment, especially with James Maddison being out with a little bit of an injury. So overall, these are my 3 favorite options to bring in. Definitely would highlight Harry Kane and Robertson, or a Luis Diaz Jota, whichever Liverpool option you want to bring in, because that double game week should be quite good for both these 2 teams. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. As I mentioned over on Twitter today, the content's a little bit awkward with that Thursday night fixtures for double game week 28. So if you guys have any recommendations or videos you want to see, drop them in the comments down below. But I'm signing off. It's me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.